It's Sunday, July 8th, 2018, and it's time for Sunday Smorgasbord / CFL report. So first, the Sunday Smorgasbord part, which is just me giving off the stats of the channel. We're up to 3,101 views on 205 videos, 360 views last week. Only did 5 videos. Still 5 videos. And we're up to 33 subscribers. Pretty awesome, 33. Not bad for a guy who doesn't promote himself at all. So, so we'll get into now the CFL report. The CFL is still very confusing to me. I see a lot of, when you watch an NFL game, quarterbacks pretty much play the whole game unless they're doing horrifically bad. And even if they're doing really, really bad, if they are the established starter, you don't pull them. In the CFL, I see a lot of stuff where the quarterback seems to be pulled. Is it situational? I mean, there have been times that even when the Broncos had Kyle Orton and Tim Tebow, there was a lot of people that thought that Kyle Orton should have ran the offense between the 20s, and once it got into the red zone, you handed over to Tebow, who was a more mobile quarterback who couldn't throw, but he was more mobile. So, is that what happens in the CFL? Is it more situational? Is it, because I noticed that like Wofford and Bridge seem to both play in the last couple of games. Bridge had good stats, 11 of 13 for like 101 yards. Wofford was like 3 of 6 for 50-some yards or something like that, but he had 7 carries for 50 yards. Bridge ran the ball pretty effectively for like 30 yards. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know really what's really going on with all that. Not to mention, Saskatchewan won that game. They beat Hamilton. So neither quarterback looked like they did bad. Neither quarterback looked great. Neither one threw a touchdown. But neither one looked bad. Then Winnipeg had like Streveler and I think Nichols. And Streveler rushed for a couple of touchdowns. But Nichols seemed to play better throwing the football than Streveler did, or Streveler just didn't throw as many passes as Nichols. And I keep trying to find things on, is it injury related? Is it that they're just switching out situationally? Does the coach feel like the quarterbacks aren't playing real well? So that kind of stuff still confuses me about the CFL, and I'm trying to learn all that stuff. I know that if it was the NFL, if Aaron Rodgers is having a bad game, he's just having a bad game, but you have the feeling he could pull it out. Even if it's, somebody more along the lines of not at the top tiers, of course, Brady and Aaron Rodgers, these guys are probably not going to pull unless they're just doing really bad. But do they pull them sometimes at the end of the game if it's a big lead? I know Winnipeg was up pretty big on the BC Lions. So would that constitute any part of it? Because it just seemed like, and BC played Jennings and, Fajardo. Jennings seemed to play okay, but there seems to be a little bit of that. But I know that even a guy like Jameis Winston, who's not the greatest quarterback in the universe, your second option isn't going to be near as good as Jameis Winston is. There's always that saying, and the Broncos attested to it last season. We had 3 different guys that we were looking at quarterback the whole season. We never could find one that really was going to be a good starter. And the saying is, if you have 3 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. If there's 3 guys fighting for your starting job because you can't pick between the 3, then you probably don't have a really good one. Because the chances are 0% that you have Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning competing for your, you have, Trevor Siemian, Brock Osweiler, and you know, it's just kind of frustrating that you have all these quarterbacks, but none of them are really stepping up. Being a Broncos fan, at least this year, we kind of have it. We have Case Keenum, but I'm just wondering, is the quarterback position more of a situational? When you need somebody who's more mobile, do you bring in somebody else? Is that a common occurrence? I mean, I'm still trying to learn of this game. So on Thursday night, Saskatchewan actually beat Hamilton. Now, I didn't think Saskatchewan would beat Hamilton because Masoli is playing so well. Masoli has 9 straight games of over 300 yards. So, to Johnny Manziel fans out there, I don't think your boy's getting in. I just don't. It may be time to maybe send Johnny Manziel somewhere else because Masoli is playing really well, and he's on the verge of being an elite quarterback in that league, kind of along the lines of maybe Ricky Ray and Riley. So Hamilton never really mustered up that much offense. Masoli didn't play bad. I mean, he was their top rusher with 60 yards rushing, threw for 333 yards. Unfortunately, no touchdowns and the INT. Saskatchewan, Bridge played, like I said, Bridge played well. Watford played well. Between the two, they threw, 14 of 19 for 148 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, so no mistakes, but nothing spectacular. Then Watford and Bridge ran combined 11 times for 80 yards. I guess all that really matters is Saskatchewan won, which puts them, at 2-2, and it puts Hamilton at 2-2. On Friday night, you had Montreal versus Ottawa. Ottawa looked strong. They really did. They looked strong in their first game. They didn't look as strong in their second game, but they didn't look as strong against Calgary, but they look good here again. Now Montreal is not one of the better teams in the league, but they did break their losing streak last week, and they thought the momentum would carry a little bit. But as it sits, Ottawa's Harris played really well, 28 of 42 for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Powell ran the ball really well, 23 times for 138 yards. Matthews didn't play badly, 18 of 30 for 280, had a touchdown and no interceptions. So maybe Montreal is kind of on an upswing. It's just Ottawa, they ran into Ottawa, and I think Ottawa might be one of the better teams. So Ottawa goes to 2-1. Unfortunately, that puts Montreal at 1-3, and I think Montreal goes into a bye week next week. So maybe Montreal can kind of take some solace that they got people that are playing well. They're just going to have to get a little bit more over the top. Montreal last week had 4 interceptions, and I don't think they even had 1 against Ottawa. The Saturday games. The Saturday game, the Winnipeg versus British Columbia. British Columbia is 1-2. Winnipeg is 2-2. Winnipeg puts up a lot of points. They really do. Winnipeg puts up, even in one of their losses, they lost 33-30. I think against Edmonton. So they put up points. But this leads me to a lot of my questions. In the BC Lions used Jennings and Fajardo. Johnson ran the ball pretty effectively for 80 yards. Jennings was 15 of 24 for 105 yards, and Fajardo was 5 of 6 for 68 yards. Jennings had 2 picks, and Fajardo had 1. So neither one played super well there. Neither one of them runs the ball particularly well either. Fajardo 4 of 11, and Jennings was 3 for 6. BC did not look really good. Winnipeg did. But this is like where I said, is it more situational football? Nichols, 16 of 29, 162 yards, a touchdown, no INTs. Streveler, 3 for 5, 45 yards throwing, no touchdowns, no picks, but he ran the ball 5 times for 33 yards, had 2 touchdowns on the ground. And Nichols didn't run the ball once. So it almost leads me to believe you get close to the end zone. Do you bring in Streveler? And Nichols kind of gets you there, and then Streveler finishes it off? I mean, it's kind of like bringing in a closer in baseball. Maybe Streveler is the closer. Harris had a good game rushing the ball, 12 carries for 109 yards. So he ran the ball effectively, and Winnipeg goes up to 2-2. Now, the game that was the most intriguing to me was Toronto versus Edmonton. Toronto had Franklin, who was going to get the first start against his former team, the Edmonton Eskimos. So he was going to get his first start, and Riley, of course, is he's the defending most outstanding player. So kind of like our MVP, but the NFL's MVP. Basically, Riley would be that, being the most outstanding player. Kind of like calling him the most outstanding player versus most valuable player. I kind of think that's what the NFL needs to do, because MVP, most valuable player to your team, I don't always think the MVP is the most valuable guy to their team. But calling the award most outstanding player, you could at least say, yeah, they're not the most valuable, but they were the best. And I kind of like the way most outstanding player sounds. Of course, calling him the MVP instead of the MOP, which spells mop. But it's like, I don't know. I like most outstanding player. I really do. Now, Edmonton, I thought, would win this game. I really did. Riley is really good at this. Franklin, was Riley. He learned from Riley. But the Argos pulled it off, 20-17. So the Argos are 1-2. There are no teams that have not won yet. Congratulations to the Argos. They are the defending champs. So it's nice to kind of see them get off the schneid, but I didn't think they would beat Edmonton. Riley played really well for Edmonton, 28 of 40, 370 yards, touchdown and an INT. Gable had a severe drop-off from his really good game last week where he rushed for like 165 yards. 14 carries for only 39 yards. That's less than 3 yards a carry. So I don't know if Toronto is keying in on the run for this game or what. I don't know why you would make the most outstanding player beat you, but they obviously did not let Gable beat them, and they did beat, Toronto did beat Edmonton with whatever strategy they were using. And Franklin played decent, 16 of 24, touchdown, INT, 217. Franklin rushed the ball pretty well, 6 carries, 31 yards, and they had Wilder Jr., which when you have a quarterback who hasn't started a ton of games like Franklin, or he's starting the first time for his new team, it's good to establish a running game. Wilder, 21 carries, 120 yards, and a touch. That's pretty good. I mean, that's effective. That can help, set up a lot of things for your team. Takes a lot of pressure off of Franklin. But Franklin, gets the victory over his former team. So Toronto's off the schneid. There are no teams left that have not won a game. Only Calgary is left with no losses. But they had a bye week, so they weren't going to lose this week. So, like I said, I'm still learning so much about the CFL. I learned about the Rouge. I saw a score that was like 12-1 or something like that. Going, how'd they get one? So I had to learn about the Rouge, which is still confusing to me. It's somehow the ball gets kicked, lands in the end zone, and can go out of bounds from the side, and you get a point. Or on field goals, I'm reading up on it, and I need to watch these plays happen more often so I can really get all the intricate. Because like I said, if you think the CFL is like the NFL, it's got some minor similarities, but they are almost two different games, which is, it makes it tough because my brain still thinks NFL. And so when I see 1 point pop up on a board somewhere, and it's like, what? Did they take the touchdown away but let them keep the extra point? This makes no sense. But it makes a little bit more sense now because of the Rouge. So it's like, so let me know. Who do you think looks strong? Right now, I still think it's Calgary, but Ottawa looks strong. Winnipeg looks strong. Winnipeg could be 3-1. Only had one game. I think they lost 31-17, which they didn't really. But, do you think Masoli is an up-and-comer? Do you think, Manziel needs to be moved to another team? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. With all that being said, to the troops, past, present, future, thanks for the freedom.